Frigidaire. We introduced the first home freezer, the first pulsator agitator washer, and now we introduce the Frigidaire Orbit Clean dishwasher, designed with a unique wash arm that gives you 4 times more water coverage for a consistently better clean. Frigidaire, over 90 years of legendary innovation.
See the full line of Frigidaire appliances at Ventura TV Electronics and Appliances.
Hi, I'm John Mallis. Welcome to this live edition at Connect with me on the showroom floor at Ventura TV on this day. Today is Election Day, November the 4th. The day is finally here. That's right, D-Day. Hope you went to the polls, or at least you do later on today. Will it be a low turnout? Who are you going to vote for? You have any questions about the candidates before you head to the polls? We have 2 experts to break down some of the races here locally. 436-ME-TV, option 11. Back in a moment. Normally on Tuesday we focus on business, but not today. It's an election coverage special here on Connect with Me. You're watching us live on Comcast channel 187 and 43.6, and of course now 13.1. And obviously you can watch the replays a couple of times today at 2 o'clock on YouTube and Biz TV at 8 o'clock tonight. So you can always catch us on YouTube if you miss the show and can't watch us live here on Comcast and all the rest of the stations. But today is Election Day. I do want to mention the number is 436-ME-TV, option 11. But when you do call in, please keep your comments short and just ask a question. We can't actually have people calling up and making political statements about one candidate or the other for any length of time. The guests are here today to answer your questions and to go over some of the races, so try to keep your questions short and we'll get to everybody. 436-ME-TV, option 11. You know, the local races have been most interesting, and are you getting tired of looking at some of the ads on television, listening to the ads on the radio in the car? Let's put up the judges race, Gamoyan and Hill. This is Lisa Gamoyan. She's running for judge. Of course, the judge that's retiring has been on the bench for 20 years. Her opponent is Rachel Hill. It has been a nasty, verbal campaign on radio and television. The other interesting race is for Congress, Valadeo against Renteria. And I'll tell you, David Valadeo for a while had that big lead, and then it shrank. There's David Valadeo, a farmer by nature, but in Congress the past couple of years here. His opponent is Amanda Renteria. Of course, she went to Stanford on a scholarship, worked in Washington, came back, is running for Congress. She wants that job. She apparently has closed the gap for the time being, but we'll keep an eye on that race tonight as well. And Andy Viadek and Luis Chavez. There's Viadek, the incumbent, working in Sacramento, of course, at the state capitol, and Luis Chavez. You know, you talk about a race that has really turned ugly, and Chavez, by the way, has the support on television, in fact, in an ad by Governor Jerry Brown. Jerry Brown comes out and says, hey, Luis Chavez and I are working together on this to try to improve the Central Valley. Live in our studio right now is Tal Cloud. He is a political consultant. He is also obviously with the Lincoln Club. And then our guy, Doug Vagim. I call Doug the water guy. I don't know what else to call him. But these are our 2 political experts here. 436-ME-TV, option 11. We have a long list of candidates to go down and the propositions as well. If you haven't voted yet, I'm sure you will. I know people have said this is going to be a low turnout because it's midterm elections. We'll see what happens. 436-ME-TV, option 11. Have the campaigns turned too ugly for you? Back in a moment.
A top secret location. It's the spies who love me, bringing together MeTV's top super spies to fight evil at a memorable moment's notice. They're daring.
That's right.
Brave.
Now what are we gonna do?
The best we can.
Suave.
Does that apply to me, Oscar?
Possibly.
And smart.
The old finger in the gun trick.
Maxwell Smart.
MeTV Fresno, channel 43.6 and Xfinity 187.
We're back here on the show, Comcast, channel 187, 43.6 and 13.1, and you know the phone number by now. It's up on your screen. Call in. No long political statements, please. Just ask the questions here. Tal Cloud is here. Doug Vagim is here. And what are you guys smiling about? You weren't supposed to come on this show and be happy.
We're ready for
It's
you.
election day. It's almost over. We're all happy for that.
We're supposed to have grim faces on this show and be very serious. No, I'm just kidding. So, you know, before I get into all of these races, including all the propositions, and there aren't that many propositions this time around, I didn't put up a graphic of it, but we all know Governor Brown is running for re-election. Kashkari, interesting character, to say the least, but really, Tal, no chance of winning.
Zero chance of winning. He hasn't run much of a campaign. He's relied on a lot of hokey little things like his 7-day visit to Fresno where he pretended to be homeless, and then he hopped in a car and drove home. So I think he would have been much better off running a spirited campaign than a hokey one that he ran.
Doug, your comment about that?
Yeah, well, he's the best East Coast Californian to ever run in California. He came here with all his East Coast buddies and supporting him, the same people you see as talking heads in a lot of these shows. Good people. Yeah. And he is a very wise fellow who took some very hard positions when he was with the Bush administration. But the fact of it is, you can't come to California and think you're going to run the type of campaign he thought he was going to get away with. This is not the 1950s.
Caller, you're on the air. What is your quick question, please?
Real quick questions. I think Renteria will win, but it's going to be close, okay? If she can get a lot of Hispanic votes, that's one issue.
Okay.
The second one, real quick.
Quickly, what's your question?
Okay, and the second question, I think will be Chavez because of Brown backing him up, and then the money-wise, you know. Those are the two questions, Renteria and Chavez.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Well, he talked about the Latino vote, and I agree. If the Latinos turn out, those districts are heavily registration heavy on Latino registration to the Democrat Party. And if they do a turnout, they'll have the race. But the fact no one knows what this turnout's going to be in that particular area. I know the turnout is fairly, I guess it's past light. It's in the almost low moderate now because we did have some surges in absentees at the end. That means the people are working it.
You know, the question that I have is, okay, everybody talks about the Latino vote, and fine, we can talk about it all we want until we're blue in the face. But the fact of the matter is, Tal, they still have to go out and vote.
Right, and I don't think there's either candidate has done much to get the Latino vote out in terms of what's the issue driving them. It's not like we have an immigration issue or anything big driving the Latino vote. It comes back to the candidates, and really no one knew who Renteria or Chavez was. They're not really vested in the district. I mean, Chavez is from Fresno. No one knows him down south or in Hanford. And Renteria from Sanger, not born or raised in the district, outside the district, and from Washington, D.C. For the last few years, I don't see her being a big contender either.
Why don't Latinos vote more, in your opinion, Doug?
Well, a myriad of issues. One, they felt disenfranchised for years, and it wasn't a feeling that they had that their vote counted. There was a surge of the vote counted in the 1970s. There was a real activist movement and that type of thing.
Because of what, Cesar Chavez?
That, but also the fact that there was a civil rights movement for the Latino arena up and down California. The fact that you had a education of a lot of the new second and third generations that were now getting their feet on the ground and being able to become activists. So you had a lot of young movements too. Now they're working, they're earning a living, and they're looking at their paychecks and they're looking at how to pay bills, and it has a different feeling to it.
Caller, quickly, what's your question, please?
I have a question for the man there, the waterman. Why should we be bothered with Jerry Brown, having him for another year?
Well, he's there for 4 more years if he gets elected, and it doesn't look like he's going to get unelected. And he's making a pitch for the water deal because it does attract Valley voters for Luis Chavez, and that's a pitch, that's an angle that they've chosen. And the fact of it is we can go back real quick on the races that Mr. Brown has weighed in this arena with Mr. Viadek and against Mr. Viadek. Is the fact of it is both Andy and and Valadeo have wedded themselves basically to the water issue early on, and to the Latino vote.
Well, so is Devin Nunes.
Oh, yeah,
but I mean, the reality is, with Governor Brown doing the commercials for Chavez, they're only 30-second commercials. The guy's got $25 million in the bank, and he's only willing to spend 30 seconds on Chavez. So he's not that vested in Chavez. You could have done a lot more in another 30 seconds. What people don't realize is a 30-second spot costs 75% of a full 60s, a bigger spot. So he's really not spending the money or the resources on the radio on those commercials. And I just don't think Chavez has the oomph to get people out. The other thing about the Hispanic vote right now, the Republicans have done a poor job pulling the Hispanics out, because really most Hispanics are more aligned with Republican conservative policies. The Democrats have thrown a lot of candy to them, so to speak, but they don't align with those policies, and that's why I don't think the Democrats are going to.
But why
Hispanics are showing up?
Why don't you pick up on what Doug said, Tal, if you can, because you've been around politics all your life. Why aren't the Latinos voting more? I mean, it doesn't cost a penny to go to the polls.
It doesn't, but the perception of what the Republican Party stand for and what's been pounded in their head by the Democrats is Republicans don't value the Hispanic vote, and I think that's changing with Valadeo. He's done a lot to bring the Hispanic vote out with his immigration positions, as has Vidak done a lot. So I think some of that's changing, and that's why it's just not a solid slam dunk for
How different
Hispanics
would the
in other
political
race.
landscape be if more Latinos voted?
Oh, it would be throw it upside down. I mean, the Latinos could control in California certainly the agenda, but they don't. And in the Central Valley, they definitely do not, because
they don't vote.
They don't vote.
Well, also this water issue, I think, is the top issue in everyone's mind, particularly in the rural areas of Central Valley. And the Republican candidates, I think, own that issue. I think the Democrats lost that issue, and I don't think they're going to get it back. And those who are Democrats, who are Latino or not Latino, they look at that water issue and say, where were the Democrats? They're leading from behind. Now they're trying to run in front of the parade, and the Republicans are the ones who were advocating from the earliest part. So I think they have an advantage there.
I got to go to break, but the phone line is open, 436-ME-TV option 11. A lot to get to. We'll be here until 11 o'clock in the morning live here on the showroom floor at Ventura TV. So we're going to run down just about every important race there is to talk about, including those propositions. Back in just a moment.
Considering solar? Whether you're ready to buy now or just exploring your options, the consultants at Solar Negotiators are here to help you. A call to Solar Negotiators is like calling 5 solar companies at once. You see, when local established solar contractors have gaps in their schedule, they call Solar Negotiators to fill them. Right now, get 5 years of panel cleaning and maintenance or $1,000 off your new solar panels. So stop wasting your time searching and call Solar Negotiators, because when contractors compete for your business, you win.
Attention all units. We have reports of 2 motorcycle cops protecting California's highway.
That's for us, good buddy.
The Men of Chips are on MeTV.
Hi, I'm John Baker. I'm John Baker. He's Officer Baker.
He's the blonde one.
Hi there. Officer Poncherello, man. Frank Poncherello. Well, I'm Frank Poncherello.
And he's the one who's Eric Estrada.
There's no way I wouldn't remember a name like that.
Catch the blonde one and the one who's Eric Estrada on
now
Chips.
on MeTV Fresno, Xfinity 187.
Okay, back here on the program, of course, talking about the election. This is Election Day. The polls close at 7 o'clock, and then we'll see what happens after that. We do have a call in here for Tal Cloud and Doug Vagim. Caller, your question for the two guests today.
Yes, hi, John. First of all, great show. I have a question. I've been seeing or hearing rather, the Aaron Brockovich commercials about Prop 46 and I guess putting tighter measures on the medical industry, specifically, doctors or that are maybe intoxicated when performing and they cause damage. And I think the spot says something like that's the number 3 medical malpractice is the number 3 reason behind cancer and heart disease in terms of deaths in the United States. So I'm just wondering if this is a good thing and how it's going to affect the medical industry, considering the Obamacare and all the costs that are involved. I mean, is this a good thing to vote for? That's my question. I'll take the answer.
Great question.
Let me answer that. Lincoln Club of Fresno County has a voter guide. You can go FresnoCountyLincolnClub.org and check it out. But on that issue, I think they put the drug testing and booze testing for doctors in there to really mask over the reality as they're trying to raise the limits so the attorneys can sue, make more money. to $1 million on some of these malpractice cases, and it's really an opportunity to raise our rates on insurance, and a number of groups are no on 46, including Lincoln Club.
I totally agree. It's just a cover up to they didn't put an escalator in when they froze the malpractice. What is that? 250 was the extra penalty beyond just the damages, and they didn't put an escalator in, so this is a way to catch up.
Yeah.
And so it's a camouflage deal. If they want to come back and do a little escalator on it, I think everyone would be understanding. But this thing should be, in my mind, a no.
And we're going to go a little more in depth when we get to that proposition here, but we're going to take another call. What's your question, caller, quickly?
Yeah, I'm kind of concerned about a lot of mudslinging that goes on between candidates, and I find the mudslinging interesting because it does give you a little bit of knowledge about each candidate, but there seems to be a lot of creative writing involved in that. Also, voting on the propositions that come up, I have a problem with that because there's so many writers. A proposition says one thing at the top, and if you agree with it and you vote for it, you're also voting for 2 or 3 writers that's tagged on to it like ticks on a board, and these are things that you don't agree with. So how do you vote for something like that?
Okay, 2 good questions. Thank you. What about the mudslinging and then the writing of the propositions?
Well, and my adage is there's no rules in politics, just errors. And who makes the least amount of errors is usually the winner. And creative writing and the mudslinging are wrapped into one. And mudslinging is, I think, a euphemism to basically throw a dust on something that can be useful. I mean, it does bring out issues that sometimes you got to be bold to bring out, and you wouldn't do that in a decorum of a tea party or something like that. That's politics. As far as the ballot measures and what they write and that type of thing, you got to weigh through that. It's a hard duty to be a voter. It really is. That's why a lot of people don't do it, unfortunately. Yeah. But you got to go and actually read the law. Primarily, if you just read the Legislative Analyst Digest, you will get a fairly good picture because the legislative analyst is sworn to be independent and right down the middle.
Yep.
That's generally the best way to try to get if you don't have any other source.
Well, and I think back to I think one of the biggest races here we've seen to this cycle is the judge race. And the reality in the judge race is a lot of people have called it mudslinging, but it's actually trading facts and barbs. You have one candidate, I think Hill, who's running running for prom queen. Everybody likes her, everybody's supporting her, and then you have Gamoyan talking about her positions and her background. But the reality is, there's no way that Hill's going to brag that she's an interior decorator and hasn't been in the legal field for 2 years unless someone brings that out. I don't think that's mudslinging. That's the facts.
Caller, quickly, what's your question? Go ahead.
Yes, on Proposition 45, what's the difference between like the medical commissioner review and also compared to, let's say, the automobile insurance review that's done? I don't really see a difference between the two, except one can't and one can't now. So
okay.
That's my question.
Prop 45, guys.
Again, Lincoln Club's no on that prop, but putting an elected politician who's taking money from the industry, who may or may not have any knowledge about the rates and the structure of the insurance industry, who's truly political, is not a good idea.
Yeah, and there it is up on the screen there, Doug.
Well, I have a little different view, matter of fact, with my own family. And the fact of it is, we put the insurance commissioner in there for a purpose, and for all other insurance.
What is the purpose? What's his job?
To make sure that the deal cutting and rate setting and competition is there statewide for insurance, and that what they promise to deliver, they will deliver. That was the purpose of the insurance commissioner. The only thing that this does that makes the folks that are putting all the no campaign on is that he could potentially override the commissions that are appointed by the governor. So they're going to be deal cutting and rate setting anyway. This guy's elected by us, and I think it's another level of look-see to these insurance rates that primarily is really the health insurance that are the two big issues that of the two bodies that are rate setting. And by the way, it only really affects the individual policy and the very small policy. It does not affect the big, large groups. They still have an exemption in this law that it's still the commissions will set the rates for it.
Really? So this Prop 45 affects only individual
and small groups. It doesn't affect the big, large institutional insurance policies. It's written in the law that way. So,
but does anybody think this politician's going to care about the small groups? At the end of the day, he'll care about the big groups.
Well, honestly, when it comes down to it, this is one of those things where you can flip a coin. One guy's right, one guy's wrong, the other way, right, vice versa. But the fact of it is, why do we have an insurance commissioner? That's the big issue for me.
Let's take a call real quick. Caller, your question, please. Caller, you there? Hello? Well, you were there. Okay, that's all right. 436 MeTV option 11. Hey, let's start putting some of these names up on the screen here. How about state controller? We all know who's running at this point. You know, I haven't seen any political ads for this one. This is Swearingen against Yee, of course. The big news about Swearingen is the fact that she, you know, has switched and changed her mind on so many issues, including high-speed rail. She's now supporting Blong Jong for Fresno County Supervisor. You don't hear too much about Betty Yee unless you read the LA Times or the Chronicle. You don't read much about her in the Fresno Bee. So what do you make of this race?
It's going to be, Swearingen's not going to win this race. She's going to win. But Swearingen, I think, has run a poor campaign because she's flip-flopped all over the place. She's really a politician without a home. I hope she wins. I placed my vote for her today. She's done some good things in Fresno. But
you hope Ashley wins?
I hope Ashley wins, but because we could use, you know, I don't. Straight Democrats across the board is not healthy for California, but I just don't think she's ran a campaign that she's going to win this race.
Won't that affect Fresno in a way? I mean, won't that throw the city council and the mayor's seat and everything all up in arms with her gone? I mean, now we have to have a special election for a mayor. Isn't that right?
Well, sure. Well, it always happens that way. But the fact of it is, it's just the reality of what we have in our political system. But I agree with Tal. The fact that just not even a week or a half ago, that she was back 8 points. That's a big spread in California to try to make up.
Yeah.
Look, she didn't even get into the statewide voter pamphlet. She didn't even take out a candidate statement.
You got to wonder why.
Well, I mean, that gets
Resources.
into every household. I know it's money, but it's every household. Without having to buy all the postage and
that's her mistake. She should have been in that with a more centrist message that could have sold why she should win, and unfortunately she can't do that.
Do I have time to put up one more? Okay, state treasurer. And the reason I'm putting this one up is I want to ask the question, why should I vote for state treasurer? Why is that important to me? You got Chang versus Conlon. Why am I voting for that?
Well, these are historic positions that were in the California Constitution since the 1850s, and the fact that the treasurer is the guardian of all cash.
Can he be appointed by the governor? Do I have to vote for him?
Well, yeah, but then you really have someone who is the policymaker and the guardian at the same time, and that the whole purpose of these things being elected was that someone
to separate,
and that the treasurer makes the decisions of when to sell the bonds too. By the way, so that's a very important
time. So he keeps this, or tries to keep the state on track,
and not be too far out there with too much debt, and so he controls that mechanism. So
we're in a lot of debt, but all these down ticket state offices are just training grounds for who's going to try to move up or around. I mean, we've had Garamendi move up and around. We've had a number of people move to different positions. That's all this is. I mean, John Chang is former assembly member or state senator, I'm not sure which, but it's just, again, it's another place for these politicians to live out their careers.
And Lockyer, I think he's painting the hallways now. I mean, he's been in every seat in the place.
Yeah, exactly.
Lockyer the one. He's a janitor. Hey, let's take a quick call and then we'll go to break. I got another call coming in. Caller, your question, it's got to be quick though. Go ahead, caller. Caller, are you there? I guess they're having a hard time hearing us. 436 MeTV option 11. Call back. You'll get in. Just hang in there and be patient. Back with our two guests in a moment.
Frigidaire. It means the first refrigerator. It means a history of innovations that help make your home life better. And now we introduce the new Frigidaire French door refrigerator with over 100 ways to organize for maximum flexibility. Built with adjustable flip up and slide under shelving and stackable crisper drawers. It's the refrigerator that flexes to fit it all, no matter what your day will bring. Frigidaire, over 90 years of legendary innovation.
See the full line of Frigidaire appliances at Ventura TV Electronics and Appliances.
Okay.
The Ballad of Andy and Barney
Andy and Barney were lawmen, bravest you ever did see. Warned every crook in the record book to stay out of Mayberry. They were the law.
Yes, they were the law, and they didn't know fear.
The Andy Griffith Show.
I guess to sum it up, you could say there's 3 reasons why there's so little crime in Mayberry. There's Andy, and there's me, and baby makes 3.
Now on Me TV Fresno.
436 Me TV option 11. Before we move on to the rest of the nominees or the candidates here on election day and all the races, I think Marcus, our floor director, brought up a good question. With all of the political clout that Ashley Swearingen has, how can she be taking all this bad political advice?
Well, I think she's been taking bad political advice for a long time. I mean, Tim Clark, her manager, is given his ideas of the way it should work in Sacramento, but she's made a lot of mistakes where they've been trash or water or the battles she's fought or flip-flopping on issues. She's
a smart woman.
Yeah, but a lot of times when a politician doesn't have a strong moral compass, they are tended to be pushed around by their consultants. And unfortunately, I think she had a bright future, and being mayor of Fresno is a great job, but she's moved around too much in our positions, and that's hurt her.
I'll have Doug comment on that just after the phone call. Good morning, caller. Quickly, your question, please.
Real quick, ask the gentleman real quick, do they think that the Democrats are going to lose the Senate?
Okay, thank you.
I do. I think there's going to be a majority in the U.S. Senate, we're talking, right?
Yep.
And the fact that they need 6, they'll probably get 7, perhaps. We don't know if this is going to be a wave election. If it's going to be a wave election, it could be more than 7. And if that's the case, they will have a little bit of a surplus over the majority. But I don't know if they'll have a actual ideological 50% because you'll have flip-flops on the Republican side too, which is unfortunate.
And I think, I think this is people want to neuter Barack Obama, and they just want to neuter him for the next 2 years, and I think the public has had enough of his policies. So I think it is going to be a Republican Senate, and it's going to be how they lead and the votes they're going to put forward. And I think that's what's going to be important, is stop Harry Reid from blocking votes.
Caller, quickly, a question, please. Caller?
Yeah, hello?
Yeah, you're on the air. Go ahead with your question, quickly.
Okay, I was wanting to talk about the water bond, number 1.
Yeah, go ahead. Just ask a question real quick. What's your question?
My question is, we're authorizing $750 billion for that, and then we go to State 2 legislature, and they decide that we're going to pay half of that back revenues. So how is that helping us to pay back revenues to help us now?
Oh, good question. Thank you. Go ahead.
I mean, one thing I have to say about the water bond, Lincoln Club, we came out as reluctant, yes, because the reality is there's $2.7 billion in there for surface storage, but that's a jump ball, and that's what people don't understand. There's been some people say, oh, it's going to build a dam.
What does that mean?
Well, it's a jump ball in the sense that the environmental community is going to fight for it for their projects, and then the farming community and us, where the revenue is going to come back, that would create storage, where there'd be a share between the building of the dam cost, between the bond and the water agencies that get use of that water. That's going to be a fight. There's no guarantee that's in there, and that's what concerns me.
So it's going to end up in court.
Oh, it's absolutely going to end in court, and there's no guarantees on who's going to get the money.
All right, Doug, go ahead.
There's sureties in it for things like trails and that type of stuff. The most uncertainty is for the water storage, and that is a concern to me. And
so even if 1 and 2 pass, we got a fight on our hands.
Well, 2 is a different issue, independent. They're coupling them together.
2's a joke. Yeah. 2's a total joke.
And actually, there's an 8% requirement now. And now they're just pooching it up to what, 10 or 11%?
They claim, but at the end of the day, that it's just an opportunity for Democrats to claim, oh, I'm good. I'm fiscally sound policy. I want to say
just the majority of the legislature can vote to have it take money out of it.
Quickly comment about Ashley and all the mistakes she's made. How for a smart person, politically astute, knows what's going on, has made a lot of mistakes.
Well, look, she is a promising young individual who has the ability to be let's say a front on any place where she goes, and she proved that by coming through Fresno State and coming to the jobs and ending up being the mayor of Fresno. The fact of it is that she does take advice from people, I believe, who give her wrong advice.
Why doesn't she know it's the wrong advice?
Well, because I firmly believe, in all due respect to her, she's a neophyte. She just hasn't been around the horn politically, and this is the first. And I think she will mature.
Inexperience is what you're saying.
But a political compass, I don't think she's strong enough in her beliefs, and maybe her beliefs are left-leaning or very liberal, and that's where she's made some mistakes.
All right, move on to some other races here. And State Attorney General, we should care about this one, Harris against Gold, and it's an important office. It really is.
Harris wins. I mean, it's not a contest here.
Incumbent
right. But the office itself of State Attorney General is an important office.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can make it for what you want, and unfortunately, she's made it to the point where it's almost impossible to get any real substantive investigational research and that type of stuff. She just basically, it's the rubber stamp office for whatever the Democrats.
She's looking to move up. She's another politician.
But don't skip over that one.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. You got to vote for that.
I'd vote for the conviction. If you don't think Ms. Harris is doing the job, vote for the opponent.
All right. Then you got State Insurance Commissioner, and we talked about this just briefly. We can talk about it again. You got Dave Jones against Ted Gaines running in that one. A Democrat, of course, against a Republican. So. Again, you kind of explained what the job is of the State Insurance Commissioner.
Put in by Prop 103.
Right.
And the purpose of that was that it was to be the kind of the overseer to all insurance so that we would have a fair play. You wouldn't be buying a pig in a poke. And the fact of it is it's not he or she alone, whoever holds that office. They have investigative staff, and they hold hearings. They have to hold hearings before they can make their decisions.
And they're virtually incompetent. I mean, there's situations I've been involved in with insurance fraud, and they won't do nothing. They're just incompetent.
Let's put that race back up on the screen just for a moment, the insurance commissioner, and tell us who you think is going to come out on top of this one here.
Oh, it's going to be David Jones, without a doubt, but he's incompetent.
Yeah?
I think the incumbents all the way up and down the line are going to win these races.
Congressional District 16, Jim Costa versus Teixeira. Costa's a lock. He always is, and I don't know why. But you explain it.
Well, I mean, I think unfortunately he has a very good chance because he's the incumbent. Teixeira is claiming that he's got a poll that shows him close. The only thing that could hurt Jim Costa is there's not a lot of interest in that race, and if his voters don't show up, you could be shocked. Teixeira maybe will get his voters out. I found it interesting, Costa canceled his campaign party at the downtown club tonight. I'm not sure why.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, but he had a campaign party. Maybe he could get no one to show up or no one cared about his race. Because even in the Democratic circles, Jim Costa is not very popular. I mean, he's not done a lot to help other Democrats.
Doug?
And even in labor circles, he's not as popular as he used to be. Because he, for example, on Measure G, they still hold a little bit of a grudge. He didn't come out for Measure G. He wouldn't support him at all. And so they hold a little bit of animosity towards those types of things.
Here's the thing that makes me a little edgy when I look at Jim Costa and I look at his political ads, and you've seen him. He has 2 of them out on television, where he talks about the water issue. He talks about the farmers' lack of water, and he looks in the camera and he says, "It's heartbreaking." Well, excuse me, it's the Democratic policies and his policy and his way of thinking that got us into this mess.
Well, he has not done enough on water. He's fought Devin and David Valadao on their water legislation. He's reluctantly gone away with it. The problem we have with Republicans in that seat is we haven't nominated a dynamic candidate from the heart of the district, much like we did with Vidak 4 years ago. But Teixeira doesn't even live in the district. He's not dynamic, and he doesn't have the gravitas, so to speak, to carry that race through. If there was a good, solid Republican from Madera, Jim Costa would be toast.
All right, we're talking negatively about Costa. Why does he keep getting reelected then, Doug?
Well, it's not. He's an astute.
Nobody likes him, but he's in office every year.
We just talked about how Ms. Swearingen wasn't as astute as she could be. Mr. Costa is a very astute politician. Let's just make that a fact.
Yes.
And he knows where to be, when to be. He's everywhere. You open a brochure up, he's cutting a ribbon. The guy is dynamic that way. He travels. He's not afraid to hit the pavement as far as getting up and down the highways. He'll be everywhere. He knows where to work. He knows where his votes need to come from. He just excels at it. And so that's why he keeps winning.
He's a professional politician.
Well, it's no secret that he left his old congressional area in Valadao holds today.
Yeah.
And went to Madera, which used to be Madera and Merced counties and part of Fresno County, which used to be one of his old assemblies haunts. And so he he played the dice roll, and it worked for him. The guy is kind of an astute genius that way.
I know everything he touches turns to gold politically. It's really amazing, and to see him come off of Air Force One in front of Barack Obama is just pretty stunning, pretty amazing. Back with our two guests, 436 MeTV option 11, talking about the political races and running everything down for you, including the propositions. Back in a moment.
Ladies' Night was started in his honor. Barstools pulled themselves out for him. The only thing Chuck Norris is afraid of is her. Cheers is the most memorable bar in the world. You may not always watch comedy, but when you do, watch Cheers.
MeTV Fresno, channel 43.6 and Xfinity 187.
Back here on the show, and it's a Your Community Day because it's your day to go out and vote and, you know, just vote for your favorite candidate, whoever you think is going to do the best job for the next couple of years, the next 4 years, whatever the case may be, whatever race that you might be interested in. The next race I want to talk about is the Congressional District Race 21. Amanda Renteria, she is obviously the challenger trying to unseat David Valadao in that District 21. So guys, kind of a nasty campaign. I mean, not as nasty as some that I've seen, but nonetheless, not too friendly.
I mean, 99% of Amanda's money has come from out of the district.
Yeah.
She has no roots here, so that sets the tone for certainly someone who is the ideal candidate for this seat, David Valadao, from the heart of the district in Hanford, been in Hanford for a long time, an assembly member in that district. So he really fits the district. She may fit it on paper, but the reality is she has very, very little support. No one knows who she is, and they don't know her issues, so she loses.
Why is Renteria the sweetheart of the Central Valley, so to speak? No offense to her, but she's very well liked by the Fresno Bee, other political circles. Although I understand the Democratic Party pulled some money from her campaign, didn't they?
Well, they're running out of money, and she's popular because on paper she has a great resume. But the reality is having a great resume on paper doesn't translate into a great candidate, and she just doesn't have the roots or the knowledge for this seat. So,
yeah, Fresno for some reason is bio-starved. We are starved for resumes. And as soon as someone comes with a resume, our eyes pop out over
her resume is impressive.
Yeah, and so the Fresno Bee editorial staff, I mean, they're just mesmerized by it. How can this Valadao, what this is, you know, we got to get somebody in there with this
credentials. She got a scholarship to Stanford.
Well,
she worked for Goldman Sachs.
And she was ready to take one of the division heads of Goldman Sachs before she opted to come back here to run
Harvard Business School.
So, look, Valadao fits this district perfectly. His ads are, I love the fact that he and his fellow farmer are walking in that field with dust kicking up on their Levi's. Is a
Why
great
is he a
ad.
perfect fit, though?
Well, first of all, he is a farmer, and he is not afraid to be down to earth and talk to folks as a farmer. He doesn't come in as a Wall Street person that's going to really mesmerize everyone, so that sells well. And I firmly believe Renteria had to get votes off of him more so than she was able to get votes for herself, and she's not able to do that. I firmly believe a lot of people will cross party lines to go vote for Valadao.
Okay, all right. Congressional race, District 22. The only reason I'm putting this up here, we know Devin Nunes is a lock in this one too, but let's put that one up on the screen just so you know that he is running for re-election, but virtually, I mean, why waste time talking about it? It's a shoe-in,
guaranteed
right?
winner.
Okay, State Senate District 14, you got Chavez and Videk. I think this is probably the second nastiest campaign locally. Go ahead, guys.
Well, look, they want the Senate seat bad. They want their supermajority. So they're throwing everything at it. Someone sensed that maybe Andy Videk is vulnerable. I don't think he is. I think he is going to get a cross-party vote because he has done his work as far as in district. I firmly believe this is a challenge as much as anything else because Luis Chavez is a very nice guy. but he just got into the school board, and he all of a sudden he jumps into this seat. And to be honest with you, I think it's a stalking horse situation for the Perea race when Perea's termed out.
You think it's you think this
is like 16-inch guns on the shoreline to soften up Andy? Is
You think
basically
this
what it
seat
is.
is too much for Chavez to handle?
He doesn't have the skills to handle it. He hasn't been in his seat long enough. He's got a lot of bad press from the Fresno Bee, but mistakes that he's made and miscommunication between the staff and himself. He's in trouble. He's going to lose.
I think we have a caller. Go ahead, caller. Your question, please.
Real quick questions to both of them. Renteria is going to upset the incoming. Okay, that's number one.
Okay,
number two.
Wait a second. Let me stop you right there.
Chavez, by looking at him, you wouldn't guess he was in any kind of political office or anything. But he does have a little pull with Jerry Brown.
Caller. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah. Sorry about that. Don't mean to be rude, but when you call up, we can't have any political statements. All right, fine. We respect what you think, but the guests are here to just ask questions. And if you call in, just ask a question. But we are short on time. We don't want to make any political rants or statements here. We understand how you feel, but Tal is here. Doug is here today. You can ask questions about any of the races here.
I just have to follow up on those two races. The reality is I don't know where the Democrats are going to get their votes because there's nothing driving them out. Governor Brown has not spent any money on this race for himself. He's not pulling anybody else. There's nothing to pull the Democrats out. I just don't think there's enough people that are going to go vote for people they don't know. No one knows Chavez south of Fresno. No one knows Renteria anywhere in the district. She doesn't have enough name ID. Neither one of them do.
And has Viaduct done a good job?
Well, I think he's worked the district hard, and he's taken on the issues that are most on the forefront of people's minds. And I think you can't go better than that when you're an incumbent.
Here's my favorite race. It's Gamoyan versus Hill. This is Superior Court Judge number 15. Of course, the judge sitting in that seat right now has been there 20 years. He is retiring. And so Hill and Gamoyan, two locals, both worked in the district attorney's office. Of course, Gamoyan prosecuted that, the big case with Marcus Wesson. And but a lot of people have said, you know what, anybody could have prosecuted that case, even me or you.
Well, it's pretty tough when she had a brain tumor and prosecuted that case. I don't think anybody could have done that with a brain tumor.
Okay, go ahead.
And that was a much tougher case, I believe, than anyway. When you have that kind of mass killing and you don't know who pulled triggers and that type of stuff, to have to get him out to in a bank shot to make him the culpable person isn't as easy as just saying it. So she had to do her work to do that, to convince a jury that the death penalty, remember, is two trials.
Yeah, that's the penalty phase.
Penalty phase, and they were able to do that as a whole nother round that she took on. So, look, she's a qualified individual, and I firmly believe she'd make a very good judge. There's a lot more about this race. If you want to, I would like to.
Yeah, I mean, what about Rachel Hill? And you had Al Smith of the Chamber come out, and all these other people that came out in support of her. With a news conference, I believe it was last week, and criticizing Gamoyan for all the negative ads. They both took out ads in the Sunday Bee.
That's politics. I mean, if you look at the Chamber, they get a lot of dues from people like Granville. Granville has spent over $300,000 on this judge race, which I don't understand why Darius Assimi thinks it's so important. The reality is, Rachel Hill's running for prom queen. She's not talking about what her background or issue is. She hasn't practiced law in 2 years. She's not talked about any specific cases she's done. I've never lost a trial. She's only had 4 trials. So I think at some level it's up to the Gamoyan camp to bring out the facts on Rachel Hill, who's running Rachel Hill's running a sorry campaign, but she has a lot of the Fresno people behind her and a lot of the judges behind her because they don't want to see this culture of continuance stop, and that's what's going on in this courthouse.
Go ahead.
I believe that Miss is a very nice person. I've met her once. I have never met Miss Gamoyan, but I've read their bios and I've studied the issue of what this judgeship in the seat that they're wanting to fill. And what I am concerned about is what we don't hear enough on any of these judges' races anymore, is the jurisprudence part of their job. I want to know how they're going to make their minds up on if a funny, goofy motion by a defense attorney, and how do they plan to do that? How do they plan to represent a civil action when someone is just trying to stall and keep someone from rightfully getting their civil parts of their hearing done? But what concerns me the most about this race is the fact that the judges have overplayed their hand, I believe. I think it's wrong for a judge to use their seat
and come out and
stand
endorse
up with their
someone?
robes and say that they're beyond reproach, and we're coming from the high, and we have blessed this person. Boy, that is elitism like you cannot believe. And
I couldn't agree more. I think like Lisa Smitkamp getting involved in this race is crazy. To waste political capital in a race where really doesn't matter, and the judges, the hypocrisy of some of these judges in this race is sickening.
Yeah, and the fact that now Judge Oliver's now said that I'm blessing her to take my seat. Well, I think it was the candidate in Massachusetts running for the vacated seat by the death of Ted Kennedy who said it's not Ted Kennedy's seat, it's not Judge Oliver's seat, it's the people's seat.
And I think one thing I got to finish up with Oliver. Great man, but in 1990, he was quoted as saying he thought there wasn't any problem with the culture of continuance. That went on in 1990. So for Lisa Gamoyan to talk about trying to end this continuance, and at the end of the day, she's not going to solve the problem in the courthouse. But you know what? She's going to try. And I think she's much
And my
stronger
concern
candidate.
about these judgeships, again, is the fact that these, even in the DA's race, they have become the managers of the justice system, that they're going to keep the jail crowding in control by them not putting anybody in jail. So that is a big concern of mine.
Judge Robert Oliver, we saw his picture a moment ago. He is the judge that in question that you were talking about, and you tell as well. He's been on the bench for 20 years, and you were talking in regards to elitism on the bench in regards to him.
They can endorse in judgeships, which is fine, but when they start coming out and actually being political consultants and political spokespeople and that type of stuff, I think that's wrong.
I agree. I totally agree.
Okay, we're talking with Tal Cloud. We're talking with Doug Vagim. We're talking about all the races, and who are you going to vote for? We're back here on our program in just a moment.
Considering solar? Whether you're ready to buy now or just exploring your options, the consultants at Solar Negotiators are here to help you. A call to Solar Negotiators is like calling 5 solar companies at once. You see, when local established solar contractors have gaps in their schedule, they call Solar Negotiators to fill them. Right now, get 5 years of panel cleaning and maintenance or $1,000 off your new solar panels. So stop wasting your time searching and call Solar Negotiators, because when contractors compete for your business, you win.
Doghouse or something?
We're back here on the show on Connect with Me and Fresno Unified School District Area 1. Okay, let's go through these real quick, because you know what? Some of these people have been in, like Cal Johnson, he's the incumbent, right?
Yeah, I don't know anything about those races.
I mean, Area 1, let's put that up on the screen. There it is. Johnson's running against 3 others. All right, next one, Fresno Unified School District Area 3. Valerie Davis has been on there for what, about 20 years?
Yeah, forever.
Fresno Unified School District Area 7. This is a new one now. Okay, Brooke Ashton, endorsed by the outgoing person, Michelle Azadorian, running against Martinez. What do you guys think of that?
Brooke, he's going to win. Brooke's going to win.
He spent money early. He got out early, and he's made a presence, and I believe that's all it takes.
And are these races for school board? Are they important?
Yeah, they are.
I think the more important ones are the county supervisor races. Those are the ones that are important that we haven't talked about.
But as far as if you have kids and you want policy, and you don't, and there is policies that you want to have controlled, I think you have to have people in those trustees to make sure that happens.
Yeah, and you know, it's even when you vote someone in, you hope that when they get in, they'll do the job and not be beholden to anybody, especially the superintendent. You know?
Right, and a lot of those trustees' positions anymore is because education now has taken the state approach of control, and it's very categorical and stovepipe. You got to follow this type of thing. You have very little latitude. It's really how to run the business. How much money are you going to spend? Where are you going to spend the money? Are you going to waste money? Are you going to get into boondoggles and that type of thing?
Hey, 436 MeTV option 11, very little time left. Fresno County Supervisor, you mentioned that. Brian Pacheco against Blong Zhang. We know about Blong's record, obviously, city council the last 8 years. He's running against Pacheco, who's a dairy farmer. Tal, go ahead.
Well, I think the best thing Brian Pacheco did this cycle is he fired his consultants from the past, brought new consultants in, let Brian be Brian, and stopped trying to have him so scripted. Blong has brought a lot of money in from out of town, from the unions. SEIU. But unfortunately for Blong, his name is very difficult. I don't think he's got a chance to win. I think Brian wins by 10 points.
Doug?
I think it's going to be closer than that, because what's unaccounted for is I don't know how much Brian Pacheco had as a ground game. I do know that Mr. Blong Zhang was part of the continuing walking for the union teams and that type of folk that were out there. and they really hit the road every weekend, worked hard, and so that can make a difference in a race.
And let me just say, one of my friends in the Democratic Party made a comment that this is going to be a race between a campaign, a TV media campaign on Pacheco's side, or a ground game with Blanc Zhang. So we'll see which campaign wins.
Did Blanc hurt himself by endorsing the mayor? Because from what I've read in the Fresno Bee, he almost fractured the Democratic Party here.
I don't think he was hurt. I think it helped him to have her with some people, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter.
I agree, but I think he calculated that if there was folk out there that were independent and or not wedded to the Democrats, that they could come to him because Ashley.
So you don't think he was worried about shooting himself in the foot?
No, I think his biggest problem was the fact that the labor folks were so mad at Ashley that matter of fact, it did play back that he was going to have some trouble with that. But at the end of the day, they like him for what he did on the council. They like him with the future, and the big issue there is that home health care. Big issue.
And I think Ashley hurt herself with a lot of her money people that didn't.
That's true.
Next race, District 4, you got Parra against Mendez, and Buddy Mendez, friend of yours.
He's a good friend of mine. I think Buddy wins by 60, 65, or 70. This race is not even it is a race. Buddy's going to be the next supervisor of District 4.
Yeah, I agree. And District 4 is one of those races. It's a kind of Galapagos Island of Fresno County. We don't see it in Fresno City as much. It's really run as its own race, and it doesn't get mixed with all the other races like the other
And
one.
Buddy's got a lot of water knowledge, which is this county's going to lose when Phil Larson steps down.
Right. And I want to ask you, let's put District 4 up if we can, if we've got it. Okay. Neither one has name recognition, though.
Well, I think Buddy's got a fair amount of name recognition with all the ads and TV buys that he's done. Danny Parra has virtually had no money. He was supported by the Pereas, but Henry Perea Jr. has $1 million in the bank and just gave him a token $5,000 donation. So he hasn't received a lot of donations.
Yeah, and just to mention, District 4, that's a Judy Case district, right?
Correct.
She's retiring. District 1, I believe, Phil Larson is retiring. So you got 2 seats. How will this change the makeup of the Fresno County Board of Supervisors, depending on who gets in?
I think it could have considerable on some issues, little on others. Now, let me just explain that for a second. The fact of it is that I believe Brian will be a little bit more pragmatic than Phil Larson on some of these issues, and he will side. I think sometimes he won't actually, let's say, put himself against the wall and say, "I'm not going to support it, whatever you do." Brian will come and I think try to find some mitigation there, whereas Mr. Mendez seems to have a more conservative bent to him, and I think Judy sometimes played that field a lot broader than what Buddy will play, and I think
I agree. I mean, it depends on who wins. It's good, but generally we're going to head in the same direction. You're going to have Debbie on the right, and you're going to have Henry on the left.
Okay. All right. Fresno City Council, District 1. This is the seat that Blanc Zhang is vacating. We'll put that one up on the screen here. Esmeralda Soraya versus Carrie Catalano. Who's got more name recognition here in this one?
I think Carrie Catalano has a lot more name recognition. I think Esmeralda Soria, I think she had a chance, but again, she's part of the Perea machine. I don't think she's separated herself enough on issues, and I don't think she's taken strong stands that are different than Carrie. I think Carrie wins this one going away.
Yeah. Carrie's worked harder than anyone in the last few weeks, and so I think that work is going to come back.
I totally agree.
All right, the next race I want to put up is Orange Cove Mayor, and the reason I want to do this is because Victor P. Lopez, after being the mayor there for 30 years, and then got kicked out, and then he's running again. He actually won a seat on the city council there recently, but now he wants to be mayor again. The whole city, I mean, every building that you see in Orange Cove is named after Victor P. Lopez. I mean, he named these buildings after himself. So I got to be careful because I don't want to be sued, but there are a lot of allegations that have been tossed his way as to whether this guy's on the up and up. What do you make of, should we care about Orange Cove and their mayor and who's mayor and whether or not Victor P. Lopez is in charge?
They're gonna deal with it. There's only 600 or 800 voters that are going to matter in that one, so no. I don't personally. It's Orange Cove.
Well, let me make sure that everyone understands. Mr. Lopez didn't name it after himself. That's his father.
Yeah.
And there was other people in the community he gave the building names to, but he did have control of the community. Let's face it. But the one thing that Victor did is he thought of his community first, second, and last. Now, some say that there was spill off and that type of stuff. I don't know, but I do know he worked hard. I do know that he's a tireless campaigner.
This guy's like Costa, isn't he? A little bit?
Well, he's a very astute politician. As a matter of fact, when he was mayor and in his high point of his mayor, he had people like Barbara Boxer and Dianne Feinstein and the L.A. bigwigs from the Democrat Party. It was a must-do to come by Orange Cove and stand on that stage and make a speech. It was just part of the
I remember when the delegation, they went to Sacramento, met Schwarzenegger, and Victor P. Lopez was at the front of the line, and he was there photo opping with the governor. And now, I don't want to say anything, you know, that's going to get me in trouble here, but there have been a lot of investigations that have been pointed his way.
Well, and some of his family members have been in trouble over it, the bike park, etc. But again, I mean, that's
nothing's come out of it, though.
Well, that's small town politics, and I think there's bigger issues that Fresno County is dealing with.
And he's had state inspectors in there. He's had federal inspectors in there. If there's been a community that's been turned upside down and looked up one way and another, they've done that in Orange Cove, and they found nothing.
All right. Let's go to the propositions. Let's put Prop 1 up. We've talked about it just a little bit. It's the water bond. Is this thing going to pass? And if it does, will it make a difference?
I think it passes. I hope it makes a difference. It's up really the issue with the water bond. For it to make a difference is that we in the agricultural community from Indio in the south to Redding in the north, we need to get on the same page and figure out what the best priorities are for the state.
And Doug, why is, let's put Prop 2 up. Why is Prop 1 tied to Prop 2 when they're kind of unrelated? Because this establishes, obviously you can read it up on their screen, a rainy day budget fund.
Yeah, this is the legislature's cuteness. So they're trying to say that if we put them together, there's more liability, more probability they'll both pass. And the fact of it is, I believe, too, even though it really is nothing more than sugar frosting on a cake, to what we already have, it'll pass because it does the right thing. Unfortunately, it's too easy to get the money going in the reverse direction. It's not strong enough. On the other hand, Prop 1 does, it concerns me because it's a pork barrel, Christmas treed up thing that anybody that, when they put these little commissions together and that type of stuff, can start grabbing money out of the grab box.
I want to move along here just a little bit. Prop 45, we talked about the health insurance industry just a little bit. And anything you guys want to add to that quickly before we move on to Prop 46?
I think we said enough
we
earlier.
We said enough earlier.
Yeah. Move on to Prop 46. This one would increase the state's cap on non-economic damages that would be assessed, of course, in medical malpractice. So we talked a little bit about this, but not too much. Doug, pick up on it real quick. We got
46.
like 2 minutes
this,
left.
again, is just nothing more than to bust a cap on the malpractice.
It's a gift for trial lawyers. No.
Okay. Prop 47. You can read it for yourself up there. What do you think of this, guys?
There's more petty criminals on the street. We got enough already. I just think it's window dressing for people that Sacramento wants. A big no. Lincoln Club's a big no on that.
Yeah,
one.
and I am too, because the fact of it is the system's already set up for the judges to way through these folks.
Yeah.
And then the final one, Prop 48. This one, a lot of fanfare with this one because of what's going on with Chancey Casino now. Would this one really allow another casino to be built in Madera?
This one has nothing to do with Madera. Madera is going to get built whether this passes or not. Lincoln Club supports it because they've done everything they need to do. It's just, again, it's the local casinos. They don't want any competition. Lincoln Club supports it. Bring the jobs to the valley.
Doug?
This is a Indian gambling issue that the people have already spoken how many times. They want to allow more and more Indian gambling. Let them have at it, because the fact of it is that if the people can get in the bus and go gamble, there's just less money they have to go spend in Las Vegas.
If you vote yes on Prop 48, is that a yes vote to uphold AB 277?
I believe so. And the one before we're running out of time, I'm a big no on the zoo. I think they've done a poor job.
Measure Z.
They've been on a real
yes
poor job
no?
of defining how they want to use that money in the future and how they've spent the money in the past. Big
You're
no.
a no. Doug, Measure Z.
Well, Measure Z is an interesting thing. The folks that are really trying to make the zoo better really believe that it is something that's going to improve the zoo. Others that say that the zoo has had its shot, it's got its money, let's see what they can do with the money they've been sitting on for 10 years. Say it's a no vote, and let them come back if they need more money.
I agree.
Okay, guys, thank you for your time.
Hey,
thank you. Stal, see you. Hey, you're going to fill in for me next month.
All right, looking forward to it.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you.
Doug, appreciate it. Hey, tomorrow, Legion of Valor. We'll talk about that and your phone calls. Have a great day. See you back here again. Same time, same bat channel.